What's up, residents? It's Alistair here in the flesh, and I'm here to do a tier list because I guess that's currently what's popular on YouTube, so it's time to give that a go. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to list all of my Godzilla films, all my favourite Godzilla films, to my least favourite Godzilla films. I don't really have one that I hate, because I love Godzilla all round, but there are going to be films that I like more than the other, so that's what this tier list is going to figure out. First off, we've got Gojira, and really where else could I put it? I have to put it on the S tier. It's what started the whole franchise. I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for Godzilla. So that's going in super, because that is pretty much everything I want from a Godzilla film. It's dark, it's gritty, it's horrifying, it's easily one of my favourite Godzilla films. I even watched it last Christmas with my dad, because I was like, Dad, sit down, we have to watch Gojira, because, you know, this is my job now, and he knows that I love Godzilla, and I've loved it for all my life, and he's never actually seen Gojira, so I sat him down and watched it, and he was like, at the end, he was like, that was pretty good. And I was like, my dad does not like any monster films, so the fact he actually really likes Gojira was actually quite a shock. Next up, we've got Godzilla Raids Again, and I know this is quite hated amongst the community, but I actually quite like it. I do like how the fight scenes, they feel so animalistic compared to the later films where they become a bit more martial artsy. Let's say. There is some issues with the film. For some reason, the fight scenes are sped up because I guess someone mistakenly put the wrong frame rate on the camera or something. But, let's go with... Let's put that in B for now. I might have a shift around at the later end of the video and then reorganize things. But we're going to put that in B right now because I like it. It's good. I know most people don't like it, but it holds a special place in my heart. Next up, we've got Godzilla vs. King Kong, or King Kong vs. Godzilla. I know a lot of people like this one. I personally am not a huge fan of it. It is fun. It's a fun film, but it's not really what I want from a Godzilla film. You've got Gojira, which is very serious. Godzilla Raids Again continues somewhat on it. It's a bit more. It's still more serious than some of the later films, but it's such a drastic change from Godzilla Raids Again to King Kong vs. Godzilla. So I'm going to put that in C for now. I know a lot of people are going to be angry by that, but you can make your own tier list video, and I'll watch it. So you go. Next up, we've got Mothra vs. Godzilla. Undeniably fantastic. I'm going to put that up an A. Easily one of the best Godzilla films there is. Great characters. Love the Godzilla suit. Easily one of the best Godzilla suits there is. Right. Now we've got Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, which I haven't watched it for a bit. Not one of my favorites, I think. I think it's a bit slow. I'm going to put this down by C for now. Still do love the Showa series. It is what I grew up with, so I can't give any of them a D or an F, at least yet. Right, now we've got Invasion of the Astro Monsters. Now, I didn't used to like this that much, but after watching it in G-Fest at the Pickwick Theatre, it changed my opinion so much. There's so much humour in this film that is missed when you just kind of watch it on your own, but when you're watching it in a cinema, there's a giant spider on my table. Right, I'm going to ignore that for now. I gained a new appreciation for this film after seeing it in the Pickwick Theatre with a bunch of people, and the reactions were pretty phenomenal. It was such an unreal experience to be able to watch a Godzilla film, a classic Godzilla film, in the cinema. So I'm going to put that in B for now. And my lip is bleeding. I just smiled, and now my lip is bleeding. That's fantastic. What a great day this is. There's spiders, now I'm bleeding. Right, let's continue. We've got Godzilla vs. Ebirah, which I used to love as a kid. I used to have it on VHS. I used to watch it all the time. But upon rewatching it a few months back, I realized, it's a bit on the boring side. It's when the Showa series starts to kind of stagnate. You got Ebirah. It's basically a giant crawfish or lobster, depending on who you are. What happens in it? The lobster, Ebirah, gets defeated really, really easily. But so I'm going to put that in the C tier. Kind of not memorable, but I loved it as a kid, so I can't put it in D or F. Next, we've got Son of Godzilla. Now, a lot of people do hate this film. For some people, they call it the low point in the Godzilla franchise. I personally love it. I actually do love it. It's funny. The cast is great. Sure, the Godzilla design is probably the worst in the series, but that's what gives it its charm. I really like it. Minya is, annoying. He sounds like a donkey, but it's got a really nice heart to it. It's got a good story, and the ending scene is easily one of the best endings in Showa Godzilla films. It's beautiful. So I'm putting that in A tier for now. You can hate me all you want, but we're all here to love Godzilla at the end of the day, and I love this film. Right, next up, we've got Destroy All Monsters. Classic Godzilla film. Plenty of monster action. I rewatched it a few months ago again because I got my Godzilla Criterion collection. Yeah, it's got some good monster action, good story. Drags on a bit in some parts. Like there's the part where they're trying to shoot the laser beam at this rock, and it takes like 20 minutes. Great film. One of the better Showa films. I'm going to put it in B. Entertaining. Has some issues. That's where it's going for now. That's All Monsters Out Attack. It's not really a film, is it? It's basically when Toho was at its worst. The Godzilla films were losing money, and they were basically on a shoestring budget. So, you know, they did what they could with a small budget. And the back of the DVD even said this was just a showcase of some of Godzilla's best attacks. So even their DVD was trying their best to say, you know what, this isn't a movie, okay? This isn't a normal Godzilla movie. So, but I do commend them for doing what they could in such a small budget, but it's easily the worst of the Showa films, easily. Godzilla vs. Hedorah. Confusing film. I actually really like it because it does some really different things. I actually really like the story. It goes back to kind of the darkness of the original. There's some actually pretty dark scenes in this. There's a kid that stumbles upon an entire group of skeletons. But I do like how simple it is. It's got a message. The fight scene at the end is just set on like a field. And it's simple, but I like it. It's effective. I'm probably going to put that in B. It's not great. It's not the best Godzilla film there is, but it's one of my favorites. Rightio, on to Godzilla vs. Gigan. One of my childhood films again. I had this on VHS, but I think a lot of people kind of consider this similar to Godzilla vs. Ebirah, where it's kind of forgettable. And after rewatching that, I can kind of get it, but it's not quite D territory. It's not terrible. I do quite like the idea of having a Godzilla land. Like I've always wanted that since I watched it as a kid, but it's not quite D. I'm going to pop that in C. Right, next up is Godzilla vs. Megalon. It's just put that in D. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla now. Good. I don't know if it's B good. It does have that really long singing sequence that I always skipped when I was a kid, but it does have lots of blood in it, which is quite surprising. I always quite like that when I watched it on VHS. Let's put it in C. It's not quite my favorite, but and Terra Mechagodzilla, much the same. I applaud it. It's one of the more adult Godzilla films. Obviously, Toho was adapting for the audience that might have watched the Showa series from the start, and obviously they were growing up, so they were trying to move along with that. It's no Godzilla versus Megalon, but yeah, it does kind of drag for me. I do really like it. I do like all the Showa series, but it's not one of my favorites. Right, that's the end of the Showa series. As you can see, it ranges from fantastic. It has a fantastic film and some of the worst films. But, overall, it's a solid series. I grew up with this series. This is what I used to consider my favorite. But after rewatching the Heisei series, I actually realized I do really like the Heisei series because the Heisei series has a continuous storyline, which the Showa series doesn't really have. So to get into the Heisei series, let's start off with The Return of Godzilla, or Godzilla 1985. I actually have a poster of Godzilla 1985 in my room. There you are. You can sit back down there. Godzilla 1985. A tier. Good stuff. Brilliant. Godzilla's back, being the only monster. He's the villain. That's how I like my Godzilla films. This is easily one of my favorite Godzilla designs as well. It's fantastic. Next up is Godzilla vs. Biollante. Another brilliant one that probably is going to go in... It's either A or B. I can't decide it. It's got some funky 80s techno music, which doesn't quite fit with the film, but Biollante's great. I love Godzilla's design. Let's go in B. It's not the best of the Heisei series, and I can't fill up A because I want A to be more special, and obviously S is super good. Next up is Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, which is Not one of my favorites. It's got some very dated aspects to it. But, you know, it's still enjoyable. It's still got some monster goodness. So I'm going to pop it in C tier, along with, you know, King Kong vs. Godzilla and Terror of Mechagodzilla. So these are all good films. Remind you, just because most of them going in C doesn't mean I don't like most of the Godzilla films. These are all... I love all these films. Some of them are just more my taste than others. Godzilla vs. Mothra, rewatched this only a few weeks ago. I think a lot of people don't like it, but I actually do quite like it. But again, not quite as good as Godzilla vs. Biollante or Destroy All Monsters, so I'm going to pop that in C for now until I have like a rearrange and then maybe have a rethink. Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, great. Watched this so many times. It's such a perfect realization of what the Heisei Godzilla films were trying to achieve, and it does a great job at it. Plenty of action, plenty of story. Rodan, great. The whole sacrifice, brilliant. Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla. Now, I know a lot of people don't like this one, but Space Godzilla is one of my favorite characters, so I just have to put it in there. I have to. I legally have to put it in B. Yeah, let's leave it in B for now. Godzilla vs. Destroyer. That has to go in S, surely. That has to. It'll stay in there for now, and then I'll have a rethink. I was actually rewatching all the Heisei films. I got them all on VHS, and I rewatched Godzilla vs. Destroyer, and what a film that is. Even if you're not a Godzilla fan, and you're just like a monster movie fan, Godzilla vs. Destroyer is the movie for you. Right, so that's the Heisei series. Brilliant, great series. You know, it's some quite similar results to the Showa series. There's quite a lot of B and C tiers, but Godzilla vs. Destroyer is just phenomenal. Right, let's start speeding this up here. We've got Godzilla 2000. I actually quite like it, quite enjoyable, plenty of Godzilla, and obviously it's mostly Godzilla-centered until towards the end when... Auger! Yeah, I forgot what his name was for a sec. Let's put that in B. Good. Again, not quite A. Can they stop moving, please? Godzilla vs. Megaguirus. Let's put that in D. No, I can't put it in D. I just realized I got Godzilla vs. Megalon and All Monsters Attack. I can't do that to that poor film. A tier. Great film. Back to Godzilla being a villain. Got some great monsters in there. They really flipped the whole Ghidorah aspect on its head by having him being a protector of the Earth. So let's pop that in A tier. Great film. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Fun film. B. Let's pop that in B, along with Godzilla 2000. SOS. I think it's C. Right, so now we have Godzilla Final Wars, which I only just realized actually isn't that liked in the community, which I was quite surprised by. I actually had this film on DVD when I was very young, and I used to watch it all the time. The only problem was the DVD was completely in Japanese, and there was no way of turning any English subtitles or dubs on. So I watched the film over and over again, completely in Japanese, and I kind of just made up the story as I went along. But as someone who was basically getting the gist of the story through the visuals, I really liked it. And half the time I was just skipping to all the monster action. So this film does have quite a special place in my heart. I'm not a huge fan of Godzilla's design, but I am kind of feeling quite nostalgic for it these days. I'm going to put this in B. I might have to do some rearranging. There's quite a lot of B and C. I realize it's getting quite crowded in there. Godzilla 98. As a Godzilla film, let's put it in D, because it's not... Yeah, technically on paper, if I explain to you what I wanted from a Godzilla film, Godzilla on his own, being a bad guy, that would be the film I would like. But obviously, you know, there's just too much different from this to the actual Godzilla I like. But, you know, the Godzilla series did actually redeem quite a lot of this film for me, and I love the series. That series would probably go in A if it was on here, but it's not, unfortunately. Right, Godzilla 2014, without question, popping that in S tier. I will defend that film to the end of the earth. This is what I always wanted from a Godzilla film. When I was explaining to you, you know, I love Gojira, I love Godzilla 1985, because these are all Godzilla being the main focus of the film. They're gritty, they're dark, they've got dark themes. So Godzilla 2014, they took those elements, rolled with it, and then mixed it with some of the monster fighting aspects of the Heisei series to get this, like, best of both worlds scenario, and I I love it. And I do just like how grounded it stays. Not once does it feel like anything happening is out of this world. All the cinematography is fantastic. All the monsters feel heavy. The fighting feels like real fighting. And that's why I liked Godzilla Raids Again, because the fighting felt like real fighting. It wasn't choreographed stuff. So Godzilla 2014 is going in S tier. Love that shit. Right, now we've got the anime series, which are kind of hit and miss amongst the community. I think most people tend to not like them or just find them a bit boring. They're not that bad for me. I think this film is probably going to go in a D for me. There's not much to remember from it. It's all I remember was the last scene, which is when Godzilla Earth rises out of the ground, and it's really cool. But that's not enough to stop this film from just being overall pretty forgettable. The second anime film, that's going in F for now. Again, kind of forgettable. The only thing I remember was the scene when Mechagodzilla, which isn't really Mechagodzilla, it's just a giant city, and he's just firing on Godzilla for like 20 minutes. That's what I remember of that film. The Planet Eater, I actually do quite like. I do like the more imaginative aspects of it. That's not going in A. That's going in C, because I do quite like how different it is. The idea of Ghidorah being this interdimensional space serpent creature that is basically a god it's kind of Lovecraftian, and for that I do really like it. I do wish the fight scenes were better, because they led it up to be this amazing clash between this interdimensional space god and this protector of Earth, and then it just kind of slaps him a bit, and then it's over. It's strange. Shin Godzilla, brilliant film, great film, not quite S to me. I think it could have done a bit more outside of the meeting rooms. I get that's the point of the film, but it gets quite stale at some points. But I do love it. I do love what it's going for, and obviously it's everything I want from a Godzilla film, which is Godzilla being the villain. And finally, before Godzilla vs. Kong, we've got Godzilla King of the Monsters, which I do have a love-hate relationship with. It does so many things right, but also so many things wrong. It's lost the weight of the Godzilla 2014 film. The cinematography, whilst having some amazing shots, just doesn't have the same... The fight scenes are so close up, and they're so shaky, and it's so blurry, that even though what you're seeing should be really cool, you can't really see it. But then you sometimes have some really good shots, so... I'm going to put that in... I'm going to put that in A. I'm just going to put it in A. I love to go back to watch this film. There's so much to love about this film, and obviously it's set in the MonsterVerse, and the MonsterVerse is my favourite cinematic universe. Get stuff Marvel, Godzilla all the way, but it's not perfect. It doesn't deserve, like 43% on Rotten Tomatoes? It does not deserve that, but it's not perfect. I get why people prefer it over Godzilla 2014. It's got more monster action. Ghidorah looks fantastic. It's probably the best he's ever looked, but from a filmmaker's perspective, I just think there's so much that it gets wrong that I can't look past to make it as good as, the top three I've got here. But it's definitely, I think, on par with say, Godzilla vs. Mothra or, Godzilla 1984. I think it's definitely in the same pain as that. Yeah, that's all of the Godzilla films we've listed. But is there anything I'd rearrange? Let's have a little look-see. I'm gonna move Godzilla or Monsters Out Attack onto F. If that was your first experience with Godzilla, I wouldn't be surprised if that was also the last experience you had with Godzilla. This has been a really hard list for me to make because I don't like to put things into categories. I love each Godzilla film for their own right. Like, there are days where I go back to watch Godzilla or Monsters Out Attack, and I love it because it's so stupid. It's so ridiculous, and it's so strange in some points, but it's still so easily watchable. I'm happy with S, I think. I've got Gojira, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, and Godzilla 2014. These are definitely three of my favorite Godzilla films. A, Mothra vs. Godzilla, Son of Godzilla, 1984, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, Shin Godzilla, and King of the Monsters. Yeah, all some of my favorite films of all time, I might be it. B, Raids Again. Some people might disagree, but I like it. Invasion of the Astro Monsters, funny film, good film. Destroy All Monsters. Could I move that down? Should I move that down? Would you be angry with me if I moved that down a bit? I love it. It's one of my childhood films. I watched it repeatedly, but going back, it's a bit of a chore to watch. I'm going to move that down to next to King Kong vs. Godzilla. Again, C tier is not bad. It's just compared to B, I just wanted to give it some free room. I don't think it's a B tier. I think these are some of the films that I would definitely rewatch more than once in a week. C tier are the kind of things I appreciate, but, you know, I don't actively go out to rewatch them quite a lot. This might be how I'm leaving it. Yeah, okay. But before we finish, let's have a little recap, just so everyone knows what all these films are, because I get the icons are really small. On the S tier, we've got Gojira, Godzilla vs. Destroyer, and 2014. My favorite films. A, which we've got Godzilla vs. Mothra, Son of Godzilla, 1984, Giant Monsters All Out Attack, Shin Godzilla, and King of the Monsters. Again, some of my favorite films. B tier is Godzilla Raids Again, Invasion of the Astro Monster, Godzilla vs. Hedorah, Godzilla vs. Biollante, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, Godzilla vs. Space Godzilla, Godzilla 2000, and Godzilla Final Wars. Going into the C, we've got King Kong vs. Godzilla, Destroy All Monsters, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, Ebirah Horror of the Deep, Godzilla vs. Gigan, Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla, then Terror of Mechagodzilla, Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, the one from the 90s, Godzilla vs. Mothra, again from the 90s, Godzilla vs. Megaguirus, or Godzilla against Mechagodzilla, then Godzilla the Planet Eater, and Godzilla SOS. And in D tier, we've got simply Godzilla vs. Megalon, Godzilla 98, and Godzilla Planet of Monsters. And then F tier, we've got City at the Edge of Battle and Godzilla All Monsters Attack, or Godzilla's Revenge, depending on how you watched it. Right, I think that about does it. I'm pretty happy with this list. What did you think of my list? Let us know in the comment section down below. If you haven't already, then subscribe and stomp that notification button to become a resident of Dangerville today. I've been Alistair, your Mayor of Dangerville, and we'll see you, residents, in the next one.